My name is Peter Holland. I'm a Montrealer by birth, now living in the United States for the last 20 years or so. Proud father of two kids and a husband of an incredible wife. One day, a letter was circulated throughout our family. We have a very big family. My mother has some 50 or 60 cousins just on one side. And the letter was looking for a living donor for one of my mom's cousins who needed a new liver. He had cancer and was out of options in terms of getting better. I knew nothing about being a donor or organ transplants, or that you could even transplant part of the liver. Really, I didn't even really know what the liver did. The family needed somebody to step up. I started reading through the criteria of what they were looking for in a donor. And it was obvious that I was the perfect candidate. So that was the beginning. I think ultimately I would not have put myself forward if my wife hadn't also read the letter and also read the criteria and also thought I was the perfect candidate. So I thought it, but just didn't really verbalize it. And then Maggie said, "Hey, have you thought about donating part of your liver?" Funny you should ask, Maggie. So I don't think I would have raised it because it just would have been quite a burden on her, I think, for me to be like, "Hey, I want to be a hero." But it really helped when she was like, "You should really be a hero." And I was like, "Yeah, I was also thinking I should be here." That was how it all came to be. I was conscious of the fact that I didn't want to raise Pierre's expectations, my cousin. And I also didn't want word to get out that this was a possibility until I knew that this was really going to happen. So we kept it a little bit quiet. I made up a preposterous excuse as to why I was going to Toronto for all of these tests. It was the height of COVID. And so I went, did all the tests, met with the doctors, and it was all as expected. And the doctors at the university hospital were clear and reassuring and made it easy. And in the end, the decision, I don't know if this is a silly thing to say, but the decision was a very easy one. These are not, when you put it all into perspective, the gift of life and a couple of weeks of inconvenience just was an obvious one for me, especially once I was deemed a good candidate. And then I got to make the best phone call of my life. And I went back home. When I got the call from the doctors to say, "We're all set, May 12th is going to be the day," I got to pick up the phone, call Pierre and say, "Hey, Pierre, I know we haven't talked in a while, but what are you doing on May 12th?" Yeah, it was a pretty special moment. Yeah. Then he said, "Can you say that again?" So it was really cool. It was pretty emotional. My wife joined me for it. Yeah, I think at that point, he didn't know that anybody had come forward. I found out later that actually my sister was in the queue behind me. It was a really great phone call. He's so I'm we're a very big family, but a fairly tight family. So I know him and he knows me. And over the years, we've seen each other quite a few times. But he was living in Southeast Asia for a while, and he hasn't lived in Montreal for decades. So I hadn't really seen him or spoken to him in probably 10 years. But I'm close to his sister, which is how we got the letter. And yeah, it was a very special moment. I think that the decision was not so much about why, but why not, especially when you hear that 100% of living donors go on to live a life without any restrictions. It really becomes, for me anyway, an obvious decision. We then told the kids, and the kids, they were very upset that we had lied to them about why I was in Toronto. How could you lie to us? Because I had said that I was going for this doctoral program that I'm enrolled in at U of T. Kids were 13 and 11. And it was, as I mentioned, it was the height of COVID. So we were actually living at a cottage about an hour north of Montreal. It was a pretty isolated life. The kids went to the local French school, which for a couple of little Americans was a bit tumultuous. So it was, in general, it was a time of kind of uncertainty and adversity. But they came around. They're also just good kids. They got over themselves, and I think this is an important thing for the family. So we shipped the kids off with their grandparents. My parents were living at our cottage just the lake over, so it was no big deal. And my wife and I went to Toronto for a few weeks. My sister, who lives in Toronto, set us up with a house in Rosedale because she had friends that were living on the West Coast and their house was empty during COVID. So there we were in this mansion, and like the owners of the house were so generous and nice. And if you guys need a car, like the Tesla's in the parking lot and just like in the driveway. So it was quite funny. We did not take the Tesla out for a spin, but we probably should have. And it was across the street from Jason Spezza's house. So Jason Spezza was playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. And of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs were playing the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs at the time. And during my recovery, I would kind of have to slowly take a few more steps, and every day try to take a longer walk. And my goal was to make it in front of Jason Spezza's house with my Habs cap and showing up for my team in my small little way. It was an interesting time. For the preparation itself, I don't think I really paid attention to the details, mainly because I don't think that it really was going to do me any good to know how bad these 10 days were going to be. It wasn't really going to change anything. So I just needed to, make it through that time and then know that I'd go on to live a life without restrictions. The recovery sucked. I blocked that out of my mind, I think, for the most part. Like, after what I've heard from women giving birth, like, you just try to kind of repress all of that pain so that you eventually have another child. Everything went great, and the staff at the hospital were just amazing. It was some serious inconvenience for whatever it was, a week afterwards. It was a pretty special moment when I got to go see Pierre. It was COVID times, so we weren't allowed to have visitors at all. So it made for a lonely week, but the doctor was pretty cool, and he took me downstairs to see Pierre. Pierre is also, of course, a Habs fan, and this was the day after Game 1, where Paul Byron had had scored to put the Habs on top and win game one unexpectedly. We celebrated the liver thing, but mostly celebrated the Habs win over the Leafs. This was a pretty big change for Pierre and for his partner, Joe. They have now gotten married. They got married in Vermont last year. They've moved to Ottawa. And every time I'm in touch with Pierre a lot more than I was before. And his emails and his texts and whenever we chat, like his emails are like, I'm sitting in the backyard and there's this squirrel and it's like, life is amazing. He's just always so existential and in such a good way and so grateful and to be alive. And so it's really sweet to see. And for Joe too, the two of them are just really so great and happy. She's had a crush on him when they were kind of teenagers. They both went to live their separate lives for 40 years and then reconnected in their early 70s. So it's really, in terms of my life is back to normal. I often forget. I've got this souvenir in the form of a scar. My wife says it's sexy. I'm pretty sure she's just saying that. But yeah, every now and again, I'll have a moment where I'm like, oh, especially if I'm having a bad day, you've got this thing that you can be like, I've had a chance to really make a difference with my life. And my day job, I think it has good results, but I don't know. Like, you never really know what the ultimate impact of your time here is. But what a blessing to be able to have this thing where at least I know that I've done this one thing that actually made a difference. It's pretty cool to have had the chance to. I'll just continue with the hockey theme for a second. My son is the captain of his hockey team here in Washington, D.C., and he had a tournament this weekend. And the coach of the opposing team sent an email to our coach to say, I just want to recognize how great an organization you guys are, and in particular, your captain, after you guys won the game, saw that one of our players had his head down and he went over and he put his arm around him and he said, you got to hold your head up. You guys played an incredible game and it really could have gone either way. And anyway, so the coach forwards this email to me and I'm like quite proud. And I say to my son, this is pretty cool to get an email like this. And he turned to me and he was like, don't you just expect that of me? And I was like, yeah, I do just expect that of you. I don't know. I think that this is, maybe it's a leading by example sort of thing, but this is what's expected of us. This is who we are, and this is how we behave, and this is the baseline. This isn't extraordinary. This is what's expected. I think my advice would be really ask yourself, why not me? Why shouldn't I be the one to have this opportunity to make a real difference in this world? The rest is just how many days of recovery and how much pain, and it's logistics and it's details. The big question is, why not me? Why shouldn't I be the one to have this chance to make a real difference? It's a pretty special opportunity. I mean, for me, that 100% of living donors through the Toronto hospital program have gone on to live a life without restrictions. This was pretty important to me. And it's pretty important to the doctors and the nurses and the whole system there. Like, they are very proud and careful about maintaining this kind of indicator. And so you have layer upon layer of fail safes to make sure that they can continue to have this reputation and this track record and this success. So yeah, I just that was also part of the clincher for me, was like, so this is basically, obviously there's risks, but it's, yeah, it's pretty cool opportunity.